Welcome to the Leaders in Tech podcast. We talk with top CIOs, CTOs, and industry leaders to learn how they leverage technology to grow their business.
Welcome to the Leaders in Tech podcast. I am your host, David Mancilla. Today we have a very important topic, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is one of the most important disciplines that any business needs to have nowadays. Hackers are all over the internet looking for ways to get into businesses, services, and devices to extract information, steal the information, or to actually create a virus or push a virus that will create a malware where you will have something called denial of service, where everything gets encrypted and your entire organization shuts down. And usually what they do is they ask for a ransom. So there is two ways that hackers can actually attack your business. The first way is they penetrate your internal networks. They push a Trojan horse or they push a virus that will actually spread throughout your network, and it will start encrypting all the hard drives on your computers and your servers, creating denial of service. And they only have the key. They usually ask for a ransom, large amounts of money, either in cryptocurrency because it's untraceable, or any other means to get money out of the businesses illegally. It's horrible. And I've seen clients and people that, very big companies that this happens to them. The other way is when the software, the hacker, puts in software that starts reading and stealing information from your databases. They're looking for financial information, credit card information, banking information, username and passwords, in order for them to steal the wealth that is stored on those accounts and move it away from you. Very, very dangerous. And everything starts, so for cybersecurity, everything is a combination of very strong software security and very strong hardware security. Software security, what I mean by that is when you are building custom solutions or when you are acquiring the services of a software as a service product, you have to be absolutely sure that the code is written in a way that is secure as much as possible. And I tell you secure as much as possible because it doesn't matter how tight the software is. If it's made by a human, it can be broken by a human. But you need to make it as tight as possible that is almost impossible to break in. At ISU Corp, at my software company, we run a custom software solutions company that writes enterprise platforms for companies. We have security as the number one pillar when we're building software. We run everything encrypted with military encryption. We actually create all our services isolated so that nothing can get compromised all the way down to the database. And we actually create encryption level in the database level, so that even if the hackers can get through, what they get is encrypted data. And there is best practices out in the market that your architects need to know in order to actually write their software properly. And it's not a joke. What we do at ISU Corp is we have a 3-level code check and security check, so that when we are writing modules, our architecture gets tested 3 different times for cybersecurity so we can make sure that it's not broken. Also, when you're running things on the internet, make sure it's running with SSL. What is SSL? It's a security layer, right? It's a software certificate. Basically, what the SSL does is that once you install a certificate in your application, on your website or your web application, it will actually encrypt the transmission of the data between the servers and the computer, so that when they get intercepted by hackers, all they see is googly goggle, nothing. And they have a private key and a public key. And if you don't have those keys, you cannot get in. And this is very common practices right now, but once in a while I still see websites that they are not secure. In fact, the browsers will tell you, warning, this site is not secure. So it's very important. The software security, make sure when you're hiring a software development team, or if you're running your software development teams internally, be 100% sure that you actually get audited and you have best practices on how to write your software that is bulletproof. So that's the software part. Hardware part is talking about firewalls. We're talking about different mechanisms in your network where you have failover, where you actually make sure that nothing gets through. When we actually run services on Amazon, so we help our companies to run their web applications on Amazon and also on Azure, on the Microsoft stack, and also on the Google Cloud. And our engineers are constantly monitoring. They see all the attacks. The bigger the corporation and the more popular the corporation is, the more attacks. And these attacks are automated. So hackers write software that runs over and over again, trying to decrypt and trying to get through the firewalls. And eventually they break through. So after you are actually protected with hardware and protected with best software practices on the software that runs on your company, you also need to have a disaster recovery plan. And what do I mean by that? You have to assume that you are going to get hacked. Because if you don't assume that you're going to get hacked, eventually you will get hacked and you will lose everything. So if you are running a proper IT team as a CIO, CTO, you have to make sure that you have a cybersecurity team and you have a good disaster recovery system that you can actually get up and running in case you get hacked and you get completely bogged down to your knees by hackers. And it happens all the time. We had a local company here, over 1,000 employees in the city that I live in, and they were hacked and they were down for 2 weeks. They didn't pay the ransom. They were able to recover from the disaster recovery system, but now they have the ability to recover within 24 hours because they learned their lesson. They needed to tighten down their security. So I hope you learned something. If you're a CEO or a C-level suite looking at this podcast, just have a conversation with your CIO, your CTO, and just make sure that this is happening all the time and that you're taken care of. I was, and I am, and I will be your host, David Manstila. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.